Chapter 28 of The Rat Race by J. Franklin. The highly respectable receptionist at the office of Tompkins, Wasson and Cohn almost smiled at me. "There are several gentlemen waiting for you, Mr. Tompkins," she announced. "Some of them have been waiting since before lunch. Do you plan to receive them or shall I ask them to return tomorrow?" "No, I'll see them in a few minutes," I replied. "Miss Briggs will let you know." No sooner had I settled down at my desk, however, than Graham Wasson and Phil Cone came dancing in, wreathed in ticker tape. "We're rich! We're rich!" they chanted. "Where's the Marine Band and hail to the Chief?" I asked. "How rich are we, anyway?" "We cleaned up," Wasson said. "Just a bit under 3 million in 1 week. It was as you said. We went short of the market, and after Roosevelt's death, boy did they liquidate. And thanks to Phil here, we got out before the big boys put the squeeze on the shorts." "That reminds me, Winnie," Cone interrupted. "One of the mourners in the customer's room who's waiting to see you is Jim DeForest from Morgan's. He's been waiting here since 2 o'clock. You'd better see him quick, huh? We don't want to keep 23 Wall waiting, do we?" "Nuts, Phil," I told him. "I'll see them in the order of their arrival. That's what they do at Morgan's when you haven't got an appointment." I pushed the button for Arthurjean. "Who's been waiting the longest, Miss Briggs?" I asked. She consulted a little pack of memo forms. "There's this Mr. Sylvester," she said. "He was here when the office opened and has been waiting here all day. He wouldn't state his business." "Okay," I replied. "Send him in or he'll faint from hunger." Mr. Sylvester was florid in a quiet Latin way and looked as though he might be anything from an operatic tenor to the proprietor of a gambling ship. He waited until my partners had withdrawn. "Mr. Tompkins," he said, speaking quietly, "I represent a syndicate that's reorganizing the free market in meat. We need a real smart guy, well connected like yourself, to head it up and keep track of the money. We'll pay $1 million a year any way you like it. Swiss banks, Havana, Buenos Aires, Mexico City, and no tax. I'm always interested in $1 million, but I never did like Atlanta," I told him. "Atlanta?" He shrugged his shoulders. "We got lawyers could talk Capone out of Alcatraz, and we got a fix on the courts too. What would you be doing in Atlanta?" "I doubt that they'd make me librarian," I said, "and I don't think I'd make the ball team, so I guess I'd have to work in the laundry. What's the trouble with the black market anyhow? Seems to me you've got OPA right in your corner." "Too many amateurs and outsiders," he told me, "just like with prohibition. Meat's bad and too many cops get a cut. We aim to do like the beer syndicates, organize it right, keep prices reasonable, have the payoff stabilized, making it a good banking proposition. We've checked on you. You're smart. Would $1.5 million do?" I shook my head. "I've got $1.5 million," I remarked. "Okay." Mr. Sylvester straightened up, shook my hand and gave a little bow. "Think it over," he urged. "If you change your mind, put an ad in the Saturday Review personal column. Meet me anywhere, Winnie. That's cute. Meet and meet. See? Our representative will call on you." I asked Arthurjean to send in the next visitor, and to my surprise, she announced DeForest. "Hell," I told her, "there must have been others ahead of him." "There was," she said, "but they agreed to let him see you first. They said they'd be back tomorrow. They were from Goldman Sachs and Lehman Brothers, so they wanted to give Morgan's first crack at you, I guess." Jim DeForest proved to be one of the vaguely familiar figures I had noticed flitting around the Harvard Club. "Winnie," he said, "I just dropped in to say that we have been pretty well impressed by the way your firm handled itself in this recent market. Mr. Whitney wanted to know whether it would be convenient for you to drop in and have a talk with him soon." "Today?" I asked. DeForest glanced at his Rolex. "Today's a little late," he remarked, "but give him a ring tomorrow. No, damn it, he's leaving for a short trip to Washington. Make it next week and he'll have plenty of time for you." "What's it about, Jim?" I asked. "Don't tell me that I'm going to be offered a Morgan partnership." He looked as though I had burped in church. "I hardly think so," he replied. "If that were the case, Mr. Lamont would have seen you somewhere uptown. You know the way they gossip in the street. No, I rather fancy that Mr. Whitney wants you to be one of our brokers for floor operations. Or he might, since you specialize in estate work, want you to help with some of the new issues we are planning to underwrite." "Either way would suit me fine, Jim," I told him. "Do you know," I continued, "this is the second happiest day of my life? The first was when I got married." DeForest seemed a bit relieved and permitted himself a worldly smile. "And today," I continued, "I received the greatest honor that can come to an American in Wall Street. Believe me, Jim, this means more than having just cleaned up $3 million in straight trading. After all, what is money worth if I can't buy what isn't for sale?" This idea seemed to be taken under DeForest's advisement for future consideration, but he let it pass. After all, $1 million is dross compared to the approval of the employers of men like Jim DeForest, still limping along on $25,000 a year 20 years after graduation. "Grand to have seen you, Winnie," he said, indicating that the audience was at an end. "I'll tell Mr. Whitney that you'll see him next week. And of course, no talk about this. We don't like to encourage gossip about our operations." I promised that I would be silent as the grave, not even telling my partners or my wife. "After all," I pointed out, "it's not a good idea to arouse false hopes. Perhaps Mr. Whitney will change his mind." "I hope not," DeForest said solemnly, as though I had mentioned the possibility of the Black Death. "I most certainly hope not. We don't do business on that basis, you know." "Well, Miss Briggs, who's next?" I inquired, after DeForest had withdrawn, with an affable air of royalty inspecting a clean but second-rate orphan asylum. "Since those bankers left, there's only 3 waiting. One's a general, but he comes after this other man. What's his name? Patrick Michael Shaughnessy, whoever he is." "Send in the Irish," I told her. Mr. Shaughnessy was an Irish-American counterpart of the Mr. Sylvester who wanted to reorganize the free market for meat. He was a natty dresser, and he spoke out of the corner of his mouth. "Mr. Tompkins," he told me, "I'm from the Democratic National Committee. The chairman, and gee, Bob's a wonder, wanted to ask whether you'd consider a diplomatic appointment." "Of course I would," I replied, thinking of Germaine's artless desire to be an ambassadress. "But that depends on where I'm sent and that kind of thing. What have you in mind?" "There's only one post open right now," he remarked. "That's Bologna or Peruna or hell no, it's Bolivia. That's somewhere in America, isn't it?" I agreed that Bolivia was located in the Western Hemisphere. "That's where the tin and llamas come from, Mr. Shaughnessy," I educated him. "The capital city of La Paz is located about 12,000 feet high in the Andes, and the inhabitants are mainly Indians. I don't think that Mrs. Tompkins would care for that." His face fell. "You'd be an ambassador, of course," he informed me, "and that's always worth something. But the boss said, that's Bob, of course, we call Bob the boss, that if you wouldn't fall for Bolivia to ask you what about Ottawa. That's the capital of Canada. It's right next to Montreal and those places. And there's good train service to New York on the Central any time you want to run down for a show or a haircut. Bob said Canada was a real buy." "Oh, a buy," I remarked. Shaughnessy looked at me shrewdly. "Uh-huh," he remarked. "How much will it cost me to be ambassador to Canada?" Shaughnessy was faintly aggrieved. "The boss don't like to talk about money and jobs that way, Mr. Tompkins. He always says, think of the chance to serve the country. Say, you're a good Democrat, or if you aren't a Democrat, you're the next thing to it, a Republican, that is, and you want to make a contribution to the party. We always got a deficit, see? If there ain't one now, there's one coming right up. Say you lay 200 or 300 grand on the line. That goes 100 grand to the committee and another 100 grand divided among the state committees. You see, we got to take care of the Senate so they'll vote to confirm you, and there are some operators up there who won't vote for nothing 'cept they got taken care of first." Then the rest we put into a dignified publicity campaign to build you up with the public and let the Canucks see they're getting something special when the president nominates you." I considered this one carefully. "Do you let me pick the public relations firm that handles that end of the campaign, Mr. Shaughnessy?" He grinned artlessly. "I should say not," he chuckled. "How do you think we boys on the committee make a living? No, we pick the firm that does the job, and that's all you need to worry about. We own them. So you see, you're protected right across the board. Any time we sell an ambassadorship, we deliver." "Doesn't the State Department have something to say about it?" Shaughnessy told me exactly what the State Department could do about it, so I told him to let me have a few days to think it over. After all, $300,000 was quite a bit of money to pay for a diplomatic post. It wasn't as though I could make it pay off in Scotch whiskey or mining shares, as in the past. "That's what you think," the agent of the Democratic National Committee rapped out. "Listen, Mr. Tompkins, if you buy that job, take me along as your private secretary and I'll show you how to make it pay like a bank, and no ifs. What shall I tell the gang?" "Tell them I'm definitely interested," I replied truthfully, "but I'd like a couple of weeks to think it over." My next visitor was General Forbes Dutton of the Army Service Forces. "Remember me, Winnie?" "Why, sure," I replied with great cordiality. "If it isn't—" "That's right," the General interrupted. "Well, boy, after Pearl Harbor, I was asked to go to Washington to help out. So the bank said it was my duty, that they'd hold my job for me, and I've been there ever since. I'm on Westervelt's staff in charge of financial procurement policies. Neat, eh?" "So you're still working for the bank?" "Not for them, Winnie. With them. We're both working for the government. Financing war contracts, you know. Now, Westervelt's heard good things about you, Winnie. He was much impressed by the way you turned down that gang of chiselers who tried to horn in on the quinine deal. They're all out. He's got a big job in mind for you. How'd you like to be a brigadier general?" "It's a little late for that," I told him. "The war's almost over." He laughed very heartily. "Ha ha ha! It's a honey of a job, Winnie. Here's what gives. This war's almost over, as you say. Then the Army will have the job of selling off the stuff it doesn't need, and boy, it has everything. We've just about cornered everything there is, and the whole world's going to be crying for this stuff. We want a good trader in charge who knows how to play ball with the boys. Realistic, that is. No stargazer, huh? And that's where you come in. There's millions in it. Hell, there's billions. We gotta go slow in selling it or we'd bust the market, wreck values and stall reconversion. So we had us a brainstorm when we heard how you cleaned up in the funeral market. How about it? Want to play ball and get next to the biggest break you've ever heard of?" I looked Forbes Dutton squarely in the eye. "Isn't it going to be a headache?" I asked. "I mean, won't there be a stink in Congress about it? I'm no fall guy." The General shook his head. "Congress is in on it. Every man jack of them, outside a few screwballs," he assured me. "We got a deal worked out in every district, all legal and clean, of course. So there isn't a senator or congressman that can't march right up to the trough and get his. Hell, there's so much of it, food, tractor, jeeps, clothes, ships, machine tools, factories even, that we could buy every congressman 10 times over and still have plenty of glue. With you on top—" "It still sounds as though you were looking for a fall guy," I told him. He again laughed merrily. "Ha ha! Anywhere you fall in this surplus game, you'll still land soft and be in clover. What about it? Shall I phone the Pentagon?" "Sorry to stall you," I said, "but I've got to think it over. I've got to talk to my lawyer. I'd still like to come down to Washington and study the angles." "Angles? Hell, this hasn't any more angles than a big ripe watermelon. Brigadier General's not a bad title for a post-war use. When these GIs come back, they'll want to find soldiers running things." "Okay, Winnie, I see your point. I'll tell the General you'll be coming down to look the ground over. You'll get the Order of Merit, of course." "I've already got it," I informed him. "The hell you say? That's wonderful. Well, then we'll fly you over to London or Brisbane and give you a couple of theater citations to dress you up. After a couple of weeks on Ike's or Mac's staff, you'll have a build-up like nobody's business. Then we make a killing. Bye." When the door closed behind General Forbes Dutton, I called for Arthurjean. "Honey," I told her, "get me a snort of brandy. And accept my personal apologies to the entire female sex for any time I have ever made use of the word whore." "What's eating you, Winnie?" she asked. "I've just been propositioned by two gentlemen who would be complimented if you called them prostitutes," I told her. "The only honest man I've met today was that first little guy. All he wanted me to do was to help reorganize the black market. Who's left now?" "There's only this one man, who calls himself Charles G. Smith, and has been waiting some time. He looks like a crank. Shall I give him a handout and tell him to go away?" I shook my head. I can't take much more of the current brand of patriotism. Charles G. Smith was a small wispy man with a protruding Adam's apple, buck teeth, and shabby clothes. He ignored my outstretched hand and advanced on me with a glittering eye. "Mr. Tompkins," he announced in a curiously deep, velvety voice, "you have made millions of dollars that you must soon leave behind you. You have invested years of your life in collecting and keeping those dollars. Little discs of metal, little slips of paper. What have you invested in the only thing you will be permitted to take with you when you leave?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "I mean your immortal soul, Mr. Tompkins, your immortal soul," said Mr. Charles G. Smith. "Oh, Lord, a religious crank!" I exclaimed. "Naturally," he agreed proudly. "I'd rather be crazy about God than nuts about money. Why not?" I looked at him with growing respect. Why not, indeed, I thought. "My case is out of your line, Mr. Smith," I told him. "They all say that," he replied, "but God doesn't think so." "My case is different," I repeated. "You see, I have not one, but two immortal souls." He nodded benignly. "I know," he said. "God told me that you were in trouble." "That sounds as though you and I were buddies, Mr. Smith," I observed. "Where can I find him? It will take God himself to straighten out my case." Smith shrugged his shoulders. "You can't find him," he said. "You've got to wait until he finds you." End of chapter 28.